waking up that morning, getting ready for work, packing my backpack because I had class that night after work, and I remember walking in because my father always watched all the news channels. Like every single news that was on each day, my father watched it. My mom was getting ready to go to take my dad to the doctor with him, and I thought it was like a movie that was on TV. And I was like, what are you guys watching? And they're like, shh, 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 be quiet, watch. And I realized it was the news and the plane. I want to say the 911 calls talking about being hijacked were going on. And I was just like, it was scary. I remember seeing the second plane hit the tower. And it was like, what the? Never seen anything like that in my life. I was like, 18, 19 at the time? And all I could think of is like, oh my God, this must be like what people talked about when they experienced like World War II and, or when presidents were assassinated. Because we literally lived around the TV. I remember I was like, okay, I have to go to work. So I got out the door, got across the street to the bus, and the bus driver knew something was off. I was just off that day. Like many other people, because we never witnessed anything like that. And I told him, I'm like, a plane flew into the World Trade Center. It was hijacked. And he didn't know anything about it. And he's like, what? I go, yeah. So my second bus, the driver was like, you were watching the news this morning? And I was like, yeah. I go, and he's like, so what happened? I explained it to him. Went to work. We literally lived by the TV that day. Even though I was at work and I worked in a retail place, clothing store, and still tried having business as usual, but it was just a gloomy day. And when the second plane hit, and we found out, I just remember being back in the break room after it and the reenactments of it, and people just praying. Just prayed, and then the buses stopped running. Like it was really weird that week because you didn't hear planes flying overhead. Everything was grounded. The gossiping about, planes on the way to Chicago, planes on the way here and there. And then it was just like, hey, how do we get home from work when the buses stopped running? It was just like we shut down completely.
September 11th, 2001 started as just kind of a normal day in high school. I woke up, got on the train, went in. Normal, pretty normal day. And then it was during our division period, or homeroom, or whatever we used to call it. We had the news on, and it was really grainy, but you could tell there was a fire that they were showing, and you could kind of hear in the background them saying something about a plane flying into a building, and that was really kind of all we could hear. And that day we had to go to an assembly, and I remember going, and we're all sitting in the gym, and that's when they said that there was an attack in New York, that two planes had hit the Twin Towers. And just kind of for the rest of the day, news kept kind of coming in about the towers falling and everything, and then the plane that hit the Pentagon and the plane that crashed in the field in Pennsylvania. And it was really unreal. I remember a lot of kids ended up just walking out of the school that day, and I ended up staying with some other friends. And I remember my mom. I had called her because they, I can't remember whatever class I was in. They had us all call our parents, and she told me I should come straight home, and I said absolutely not. I was gonna keep doing things the way I normally did, and after school we took the train and uh, rode it out to Midway Airport, and I just remember the train being so much emptier than usual, and it just kind of felt surreal. And then coming back, I had to switch back to
September 11th, 2001. Um, I was in humanities class, and one of our teachers came in and whispered something in another teacher's ear about what was going on. And we immediately turned on the TVs and we just watched the TVs all day. I'm pretty sure I seen the second plane go into the building. The crazy part for me, and to this day is still kind of crazy just to think about, was that year our school was at near North. So I took 2 trains to school. And my last train home was the Metro. And I was at the LaSalle Street station in downtown Chicago, which, if you've ever been there during a weekday, like, it's busy because people from everywhere on the Rock Island line they're going home from work from downtown Chicago, and it's quick and efficient, etc., etc. That train station was a ghost town. Downtown was a ghost town. It was like the central business district, the financial district in particular, where the train station was. It is, like I said, very busy on a weekday afternoon or during the week. And at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was empty, like dead silence. And it was a wild time. Yeah, and I just remember everybody all over the world, like, kind of just being glued to the TV and, like, worried about one another. Um, I had a really good friend in New York at the time who was Muslim, and her family experienced some Islamophobia. It was really fucked up. Um, but it's crazy how long ago that was and, like, where we are now.
I remember 9/11. I was in my second period sociology class. Our teacher was giving some history presentation, and he had to turn on the TV. When he turned it on, it was on the news on what was happening in New York, and he changed it really quick. So we didn't really see much, but one of the towers was on fire. But besides that, we couldn't tell what was going on. Honestly, I don't remember anything else about that class except for when we finished, he very nonchalantly, very casually was like, "Oh yeah, a plane crashed into the World Trade Center." My world kind of stopped for a minute because my cousin was in New York at the time. She had an office in one of the towers. Her company had an office in one of the towers, and she was there for a business trip. And so I knew it was a possibility that she was there. Thankfully, she wasn't there that particular day, but she had just been there the day before. So things could have been very different for me and my family.
This is Eve from Tombstone Tea. Today is a day that many Americans will never forget, and we should never forget. Remember the sense of unity that we all had after September 11th. So on the eve of the presidential election debate that we just had, I want to give you all a sense of what we are fighting for. We are fighting for peace, love, unity, and to be American and the American dream. I hope you all not necessarily enjoyed this episode of Tombstone Tea, but I hope you all have a little bit of reflection on this September 11th.